KVK was born in 1990 in DD Commune, TT District, HN City. Growing up in the modern era, surrounded by advanced technology, K had absolutely no belief in the spiritual world. He was a typical atheist whose life followed the same path as countless others: study hard to earn a degree, then find a stable job. In 2017, he found work as a cook at a restaurant in SL Province. After working there for some time, an unexpected event completely overturned everything he believed about life and reality. It was during the Lunar New Year. A light drizzle was falling, and at exactly noon he stepped outside through the front gate to attend to an errand. After taking only a few steps into the courtyard, boom, a blinding bolt of lightning struck him directly on the head. His vision instantly went black. Every muscle in his body became numb with excruciating pain, and he collapsed onto the ground, gasping for breath. After lying there for a while, the pain gradually eased enough for him to crawl back inside the house. He felt both terrified and relieved. Fortunately, it had been only a relatively small lightning strike, and he had survived. From that day onward, however, he began experiencing extraordinary abilities that connected him to the spiritual realm. He could see wandering spirits and even perceive their distinctive scents. At times, he also dreamed of events before they occurred. Night after night, Kay experienced unusually vivid dreams. Unlike ordinary fragmented dreams, these visions were extraordinarily clear and lifelike. Although they came on different nights, they unfolded in chronological order, linking together into one continuous story. In one dream, he saw a radiant being whose brilliant light made it impossible to distinguish any facial features. He could only guess that this was Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. Through the Bodhisattva's spiritual power, memories from his previous lives appeared one after another, unfolding vividly in his mind like scenes from a living film. The first past life shown to him took place in an unknown land deep within a tranquil forest. In that lifetime, Kay had been a Buddhist monk who practiced with great diligence. He strictly observed the precepts and devoted himself wholeheartedly to meditation. Yet he possessed one significant weakness: he longed for supernatural powers. He constantly desired extraordinary abilities and miraculous spiritual attainments. Because of his dedicated meditation practice, he eventually acquired the ability to project his consciousness outside his physical body and travel freely. During one such out-of-body journey, he was suddenly pursued by a demon, a type of evil spirit that specifically tormented Buddhist practitioners. Terrified, he fled across a desolate landscape until he encountered about 20 monks walking together on their arms round, each one surrounded by a radiant aura. He quickly hid among them. The demon could no longer approach, yet it continued circling nearby, refusing to leave. Overwhelmed with fear, he knelt down and earnestly prayed to Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, begging for salvation. A short while later, an intensely brilliant white light shot across the eastern sky. The earth trembled as Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva gradually appeared before him. The Bodhisattva said,
"Only you can truly save yourself. Quickly recite the Vajra mantra."
The Bodhisattva then transmitted the Vajra mantra. The monk memorized it immediately and began reciting it with complete sincerity and unwavering concentration. His body grew intensely warm, and before long, it too began emitting a radiant light. His fear completely disappeared. Seeing this transformation, the demon realized it could no longer harm him and retreated. Afterward, the monk returned to his physical body and later sought out those 20 monks, asking to join their community. In the next lifetime, Kay saw himself reincarnated as a Taoist priest in China. The desire he had nurtured in his previous life had finally been fulfilled. As a Taoist priest, he learned numerous mystical arts and esoteric techniques of Taoism. However, this lifetime flashed by quickly in his vision. He saw only a brief scene of himself wearing a blue Taoist robe while conducting a sacred ritual for the villagers. In his next incarnation, he was once again born in China, this time during the Warring States period in the 3rd century BC. In that life, his name was Su Qin. Because of the diligent Buddhist cultivation and strict observance of the precepts in his 2 previous lives, Su Qin was born with tremendous karmic blessings. Exceptionally gifted and talented, he enjoyed a brilliant career and a future filled with promise. Anyone familiar with the history of the Warring States period would recognize just how renowned Su Qin became. As a young man, Su Qin traveled into the mountains to study under the legendary Master Giguzi, Master Ghost Valley, from whom he learned every manner of extraordinary skill. After years of arduous training, he emerged as one of Giguzi's 4 foremost disciples. He became proficient in astronomy and geography, divination and fortune-telling, military strategy and statecraft, a rare genius equally accomplished in both scholarship and martial affairs. After descending from the mountains, Su Qin sought an audience with King Hui of Qin. He presented an ambitious plan to strengthen the state of Qin before conquering the surrounding kingdoms and ultimately unifying all under heaven. Unfortunately, King Hui had grown weary of warfare and had no desire to embark on new military campaigns. He neither accepted Su Qin's proposal nor offered him any meaningful position. After remaining in Qin until his money was exhausted, Su Qin returned home in poverty. His parents, his wife, and even his sister-in-law looked down upon him with contempt. Undeterred by this humiliation, Su Qin devoted himself even more intensely to study and self-improvement. Several years later, he traveled to the state of Yan and met Duke Wen of Yan, presenting a completely different strategy, the formation of an alliance among the 6 eastern states to resist Qin. This time, Duke Wen found Su Qin's proposal remarkably convincing. He appointed him to a prestigious office and rewarded him generously with gold and silver, enabling him to travel as an envoy to the other kingdoms and build the proposed alliance. With Yan's support, Su Qin visited the rulers of Qi, Chu, Zhao, Wei, and Han, persuading them to unite against Qin. This became the famous vertical alliance, Hezong, strategy of the Warring States era. Thanks to Su Qin's extraordinary eloquence and carefully crafted diplomatic plan, the kings agreed to form the alliance. In 333 BC, they jointly appointed him Chancellor of the 6 states, entrusting him with command of the allied forces against Qin. Ironically, Su Qin had originally hoped to serve Qin in conquering the 6 smaller states. Later, he advocated uniting those very same 6 states against Qin. This reveals that Su Qin was never truly loyal to any particular kingdom. Instead, his deepest motivation was his own ambition, fame, and personal gain. Through his masterful powers of persuasion, Su Qin manipulated one kingdom into fighting another. As a result, he became indispensable to the rulers of all 6 states. A single speech from him could influence the destiny of entire nations. Thus Su Qin reached the pinnacle of wealth, prestige, and political power. He lived in a magnificent mansion overflowing with gold and treasures, attended by countless servants and retainers. In 318 BC, the alliance of the 6 states launched a massive invasion of Qin. The Qin army dared not underestimate its enemies and concentrated its full military strength at Hangu Pass. A colossal battle erupted. Soldiers from both sides charged into fierce combat, filling the battlefield with bloodshed and chaos. Surprisingly, although greatly outnumbered, Qin's troops proved exceptionally disciplined and courageous. Fighting one army against 6, they repeatedly broke through enemy formations and ultimately routed the allied coalition. The state of Chu suffered the heaviest losses. Its soldiers fell in countless numbers, their bodies covering the battlefield. After that devastating war, no one could count the number of lives lost or the families torn apart by grief. Su Qin had been the one who set this tragedy in motion. Ironically, the very moment he reached the height of worldly power was also the moment he accumulated the heaviest burden of karmic killing. On one occasion, Su Qin hosted a lavish banquet at his residence. Military commanders and distinguished officials gathered to feast and drink. A beautiful young woman was invited to entertain the guests through sword dancing, singing, and serving wine. Captivated by her beauty, Su Qin, despite already having a wife, became infatuated with her and entered into a secret affair. He made her many promises about their future together. Yet after his passion faded, he callously presented her as a reward to 6 of his subordinates for their pleasure. The young woman was deeply humiliated. Not only had Su Qin broken every promise he had made, but he had also treated her as though she were nothing more than an object to be given away. Even though resentment filled her heart, she dared not resist. Su Qin's authority was unmatched. Holding military command over the armies of all 6 states, he possessed immense power, while she was merely a lone woman with no one to protect her. All she could do was silently wipe away her tears and submit to her fate. Eventually, while serving in the state of Qi, Su Qin became so highly favored by the ruler that jealous officials secretly hired an assassin. With a single fatal stab, Su Qin's life came to an end. After his death, Su Qin, K's past life identity, fell into the hell realms because of the immense karma he had accumulated by instigating wars, along with many other misdeeds. There he endured severe and unimaginable punishments. Even after completing his sentence in hell, his karmic debt was far from exhausted, and he had to undergo many more rebirths as animals. For nearly 2,000 years, KVK saw himself reincarnated over and over again, sometimes as a pig, sometimes as a dog, then as a cow, a goat, and many other animals. Most of these were creatures whose flesh he had frequently eaten when he had been human. Not a single one of these animal lives ended peacefully. Whenever he was raised to adulthood, he was slaughtered, his throat cut, body butchered, and flesh carved apart. Although he could not clearly remember every individual lifetime, one memory remained unforgettable: the moments just before death. Bound tightly by humans, trembling with terror, crying out helplessly, he would then have his throat slit or his belly cut open, enduring unbearable agony. The once glorious Su Qin, admired by kings, respected by nobles, and honored throughout the land, had become nothing more than nameless animals, living obscure lives and dying horrific deaths that no one remembered. How completely fortunes change. Empires rise and fall, the sea becomes farmland, and farmland becomes sea. Only the endless wheel of reincarnation continues turning without pause. Lifetime after lifetime passed in this way. He could no longer remember exactly how many there had been. Perhaps hundreds, perhaps even thousands, yet nearly every one ended beneath the blade of a butcher's knife. Only after countless animal incarnations, repaying what he described as a blood debt, was he finally reborn as a human again, this time in northern Vietnam during the French colonial period. When he reached adulthood, he joined the resistance movement fighting for Vietnam's independence. At the age of 32, he was captured by French forces. They brutally tortured him, demanding that he reveal the identities of his comrades. He endured every form of suffering without yielding. He would rather die than betray them. In the end, they bound his hands behind his back and executed him with a burst of machine gun fire to the head. His spirit left his body with remarkable ease. He did not even realize that he had died. At that moment, a divine official appeared before him, the chief investigating judge of the underworld. The official wore crimson robes resembling those of an ancient imperial magistrate, carrying a register in one hand and a writing brush in the other, while 4 attendants followed behind him. Pointing toward the lifeless body lying on the ground, the official gently informed him that he had already passed away. Then he comforted him, saying that physical body was only temporary. Only through genuine spiritual cultivation can one escape the endless suffering of samsara. Afterward, the officials completed the formal procedure of removing his name from the register of the living. 2 attendants took him by the hands and led him away. What happened after that was not shown to him. His next rebirth came quickly. Once again, he was born in northern Vietnam. His given name was Ha, though he could no longer remember his family name. As an adult, he enlisted in the Vietnamese army and fought during the Vietnam War. It seemed that military life remained deeply intertwined with his karmic destiny. After the country's reunification in 1975, he did not return to his hometown. Instead, he settled in southern Vietnam, where he practiced traditional herbal medicine, treating illnesses and helping countless people. The local community respected and admired him greatly. Many years later, he passed away peacefully from old age. Among all the lives he had experienced over several thousand years, this was the most tranquil death of all. After that lifetime ended, he was reborn as KVK, his present incarnation. Several years after surviving the lightning strike, he unexpectedly encountered the young woman who had once performed the sword dance at Su Qin's banquet, the woman with whom he had fallen in love in that distant lifetime. She had also been reborn in Vietnam. Her appearance closely resembled her former self, perhaps 70% the same. She still possessed a beautiful singing voice. She still excelled at sword dancing. The moment he saw her, Kay immediately recognized who she had been. Driven together by karmic ties, Kay fell in love with her, and the two married in August 2019. In doing so, he finally fulfilled the promises that Su Qin had once made to her but had never kept. But unwholesome causes cannot produce happy results. The resentment she had suppressed throughout that former life now found an opportunity to surface. From the time they married, she constantly argued with him, became angry over trivial matters, blamed him, demanded money, and subjected him to relentless emotional distress. They quarreled 7 or 8 times nearly every month. Already exhausted from work, Kay would return home only to face another Cold War, leaving him on the verge of emotional collapse. Even more painful was what happened later. He discovered that his wife had been unfaithful, not with just one man, but with 6 different lovers. According to Kay's recollection, These 6 men were the reincarnations of the very 6 subordinates to whom Su Qin had once given the sword dancer as a reward. After exhausting every possible effort to save the marriage, he finally chose to file for divorce. Remembering this long succession of past lives completely transformed K's understanding of existence. A human lifetime may appear long, yet in truth it is no more enduring than a drop of morning dew resting upon a blade of grass. Against the immeasurable current of countless rebirths, whatever one gains or loses in a single lifetime soon disappears without a trace. Only the consequences of one's actions, and the suffering generated by unwholesome karma, continue to endure.